Well, here we go. Okay, so again, I wanted to welcome you to this webinar. It is going to be on the topic of women's health and hormones. Let's see. Okay. So the things that you will learn, the reasons why our hormones are so out of whack. And it's a very complicated system, so I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can and just give you the information so, you know, that this might be just a tipping point. There's so much more that I couldn't give you in this webinar, but it's kind of the basics so you understand it more. Why I care about using natural means to balance hormones and why you might as well. And how you can make a difference. You know, once we go over all this information, I really like to give you practical things that you can maybe start implementing now, you know, and some that you might could do in the, you know, over the future. But just simple steps to kind of get started on the right path. So that some of those will be lifestyle changes, such as diet, exercise, things like that. And other things will be supplements and essential oils. So that's kind of what we'll go over today. So a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Cootie. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a natural health and business coach. I'm a gold leader with doTERRA, and I'm a Christian, a wife, and a mama of 2 little babies. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old son. So they keep me really busy, but this is something that I really love doing. I love doing these different topics and just learning more about how we can take care of our health naturally, and then possibly, you know, obviously use essential oils as a great tool to help our body sort of get back into balance and really heal itself. And like I said, I'll go into a little bit more about why this is such an important topic to me and one that I have really been drawn to over the last few years. So I'll kind of go into a little bit of that later. So before we get started, there are a few things that I want you to know. I'm not a medical doctor. So, you know, anything that we're talking about in here, such as supplements, oils, and things like that, you know, you need to discuss with your own doctor. They know your history and just, you know, a lot more about you than I would. And I would never want to recommend something without, you know, you getting the okay from them. So as a natural health educator, I teach others how to enable their body to heal itself. Nothing that I speak about today is actually going to be the cure, you know, whether it's supplements, oils, diet, whatever. It all works together to help your body heal itself. So that's, you know, that's one point that I definitely want to make. And the things that we will discuss tonight are all things that I've used personally and can attest to. So I don't want to tell you anything, you know, if I've never used it, I'll say this is what I heard from somebody. But most of the things in this PowerPoint I have, you know, have personal a testimony to. And one last thing, of course, I value modern medicine. You know, I'm a pharmacist, and I really think that, you know, I'm very thankful for all the advances that modern medicine have made. And you know, if I ever did need it, I'd be so thankful for it. And I value its place in the world, but it's not something I turn to first. So I did want to mention that. Of course, I really feel like they can work very good together if need be. So that's just something as we go forward I wanted to mention. So just to get right in and talk about this topic, you know, I really feel like that this, you know, this webinar could really help anybody, to whether, you know, you as a mom yourself, as a woman, and then also if you have a daughter, you know, these are things that she's going to be dealing with. You know, it really, we'll talk about it, but these things, even if it's a young daughter, even my daughter, you know, not that she has very many hormones yet, but the hormones that she's, and the different things that she's exposed to right now can make a big difference in her life going forward. And it's something that I think about for sure. So some of the things that really affect, you know, our hormones being off balance, and this is kind of, you know, I would say the standard American diet, you know, kind of standard American life. So poor diet, you know, lack of physical activity, and a stressful lifestyle. And we'll kind of go into why each of these really make a difference. But that's kind of how, you know, you get so out of balance, is you don't really care and really take the time to you maybe get on webinars like this, or take the time out of your, you know, busy life to kind of pay more attention to it and then really honor your body and listen to what it's telling you. So I feel like that's kind of how, you know, you get there. And then, you know, we'll talk about this, but it's such a vicious cycle. If we don't pay attention to these little, you know, things that might come up and we just kind of push them to the side and keep doing what we're doing, it's only going to get worse. You know, just like I said, through diet and no activity and and really leading a very demanding life, that is such a vicious cycle. And it's one that we have the total ability to break, and it's one that I used to lead a different life than I do now. And it's something that I had to really make the decision in my mind that I wanted to do it differently. And I wanted to take it into my own hands and really know about these things and why, certain things happen and all that. It's very interesting to me. And I think the human body is amazing. And so, we'll delve in a little bit deeper to that. But while we're here, I really wanted to kind of talk about, a few of the things that we see as a result of this. So I looked up because I was wondering myself. I'd never really actually heard. You hear about all these things, from different people and maybe on the news or whatnot. So, why are we seeing a prevalence of infertility and difficulty to conceive? And I will talk about my story. I might as well right now. But when I wanted to get pregnant, when me and my husband decided that we wanted to start a family, I was on birth control then. And so I got off and, I just thought, well, it's going to just happen right away. And it didn't, and it was very frustrating. And 2 years later, we finally, of course, had a healthy daughter. We conceived a healthy daughter. But, I think that it's something that you hear about a lot, people having a really hard time conceiving and just, maybe just being infertile, for the rest of their life. I think there's a few things that we can look at too. There's women waiting later to conceive. They wait until maybe they're 30, late 30s or 40, when their natural production of hormones are irregular. When you're in your 20s or in your teens even, your hormones are at a higher level and just your body can function at a higher level too. And so it doesn't take as much to get them off balance. Just like anything else, it takes, maybe longer working out to lose weight, or you have to really watch what you eat as you get older. So these things happen. And I know that's definitely something that plays into that. There's also a lot more, the air quality is not as good. And there's a lot more toxins in our food and in our, the food that we eat now is definitely not the same as when even our grandparents or whatnot were around. The food that we eat has way more chemicals and artificial hormones. And that plays a huge part when you're trying to balance your own hormones and you're taking in these outside sources and your body is so confused. So we'll get into a little bit more of that. And then the average age that a young woman starts her cycle used to be 16. And I'd love to, if obviously we can't, but I'd love to hear you guess what it is now. Because I was wondering myself, so I looked it up, and it's 10 and a half. And that's a drastic difference. It's crazy. It's kind of mind-boggling that an 11-year-old can carry a child now, if they indeed do start their cycle. And it's something that definitely these things play a factor in. And that's why I was saying that, it's kind of how you bring them up. If you, live a certain lifestyle and your kids do as well, these things are going to affect, those type of things. So I just found that really interesting. And really, hormones, they affect all bodily function. So not only might we experience certain symptoms, our body actually can't function the way it's meant to if our hormone balance is out of whack. And if you doubt the true power of hormones, go talk to a pregnant woman. Their hormones are going crazy and they're experiencing all of these changes. So it's something that's very valid, and, we can see those things in our life show up. So there's definitely signs and signals but do we choose to listen to them or not is kind of the question. And I've seen it a good many times. People come to me and they've made a lot of the changes, healthy changes in their life, but maybe they haven't focused on getting their hormones in check, and they're not seeing the results that they want. They're not seeing the weight loss. They're not seeing, decrease in symptoms of whatever they might, have come to me with the issue about. And so it's a really valid thing in living a healthy lifestyle, is getting your hormones kind of in check. So these are, some things that hormones can affect, low energy, irregular sleep patterns, craving, excessive hunger, decreased sex drive, anxious or low feelings, excessive seasonal symptoms. I see that a lot. People have, these things going on year round, it seems like, not just when things are blooming outside. So that was interesting. I didn't know that before I did this research for this. So I thought that was very interesting. Weight gain or loss, either way, hair loss and constipation. And to be honest, and I hope it's not TMI, but I used to really struggle with constipation. And I found that once I did get my hormones in check, that kind of went away. So it's something that, like I said, it can affect your life pretty, well. So if we decide that, we might need to pay more attention to our hormones and really trying to get them back in balance, let's learn a little bit more about how they work in the body. So where do they actually come from? So hormones are controlled by the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. And, these two things in your body kind of tell your body how much, they're produced by the ovaries and the adrenal glands and the pineal gland and the thyroid. So your body actually signals these things to produce a certain amount of hormones. So it's kind of, we'll talk about it in a minute, but it is a messenger system. And that's where the signal first starts, is in the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So it is in fact a messenger system, how these all work in your body. So, when the endocrine glands, they secrete these certain hormones, it's a complex process. And, it's depend on very different things in your body, necessary fats or diet or, stress levels and everything like that. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail about those. But, and certain toxins can actually mimic these hormones. And that's what kind of throws it all off balance. So when they travel through the bloodstream to the tissues and organs, they actually work at a cellular level. And the next slide talks about this and kind of how they communicate. But they send signals to all parts of your body. So, just say, they're out of balance, the signals are going to get construed. And that's where you see the symptoms, the kind of list of the side effects of imbalanced hormones. And that's kind of how it works as a whole. And we'll look a little bit deeper into that. So as far as communication, so these are pictures of cells, and every cell has a receptor site for a hormone to communicate with a cell to turn it on or off to do a certain job. And as you can see, some have, circle shapes, some have triangle shapes. So certain cells can only bind with certain hormones. So, that's going to be important when I talk about it later. So I definitely wanted to make sure that you kind of understand how they work. And we'll, like I said, we'll learn later about how these cells get blocked by fake estrogens. And therefore they cannot function properly. And, working at a cellular level, it is a very complex dance going on within our body. And I feel that that's why the essential oils that I will talk about are such a valid tool, is because they do work at a cellular level, much like food that we ingest. Those are the two biggest things to me to actually balance your hormones. So the key players in sort of the hormone balance is the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And the ones that I've starred on here are the main two are estrogen and progesterone. And the balance of these hormones directly affects how our body functions. And these are two of the main players, like I said, and really a good balance and quantities of these, if they're off, can affect a variety of certain things. Like I said, energy, weight control, increased libido, youthful appearance, recovery from different stressors more easily. You can really gain an overall sense of well-being if you have these kind of in check. And estrogen and progesterone, they're the main two, and they're really designed to balance each other and to keep each other in check. So estrogen makes everything grow, and progesterone keeps that in check, holding cell growth to a limit. So, that's interesting, because if we look at when we have the most estrogen in our body, it's when we're pregnant. So, and progesterone, though, that's the highest your hormones will ever be when you're pregnant. You just have so many to do different things. And so progesterone in your body helps your lining of your uterus to get larger, and your the fetus to grow, and different things to grow. And then estrogen helps, kind of get the chain reaction going of different things in your body. So it's, these are definitely the two main ones that you want to look at. And a lot of people think that these three hormones can function independently, but that really isn't the case. And, at any given time, our body is always trying to come back to a sense of balance. And if one hormone is lacking in your body, it's going to try to make it up with producing more of another. So that's kind of interesting when, we think about balance of these. They all work together. That's why it's so important to get them all balanced, not just one. So the 3 types of estrogen. There is natural estrogen that our body produces. There's phytoestrogen, that is a plant-based source of estrogen. And then there's xenoestrogens. And these are chemicals that mimic estrogen within our body. And these are really found in processed foods and chemical products. So, you might think of like Teflon or plastics or preservatives or additives, food dyes, GMO food, packaged food, the things that we know as hormone disruptors. A BPA, I know you all probably have seen that one. A lot of plastics now are saying BPA free, and that was one of the main hormone disruptors that was out there. But I guess they're slowly starting to kind of wean that back. But still, there's so many of them out there for sure. And it's interesting that I used to think that you always hear there's such an overproduction of estrogen, but we're actually estrogen deprived. And that's interesting when you think there's 3 different types. How are we deprived? But, I'll go into a little bit more detail. But when we get these xenoestrogens, our body thinks that we have enough estrogen. So it actually produces less of the natural estrogen that can do the jobs that it's supposed to do. And it's kind of taking the place of the xenoestrogen. So, and they don't help your body function the way it should. They're actually blocking that cell receptor, and it can't work the way it should. So that's kind of, the way the 3 different types of estrogen work. And I put good, bad on here. I think you can probably figure that out, but sometimes it is confusing. So, natural estrogen obviously is what we want to be in balance. Phytoestrogen can help natural estrogen be in balance. And then the xenoestrogens are the ones that are trying to throw the whole balance off. They're the bad ones that we want to try to limit our toxic exposure of these to help balance. And when estrogen levels are low, really there can be a ton of different things. From they interfere with normal insulin release and blood sugar control. There's going to be increased risk for breast tissue overgrowth, an increased risk of low feelings, head tension. The list is very long, but it's one that a lot of people struggle with. So that's why I think this is such a valid topic, is because I think we can all look back in our life and think at one time or another we struggled with this. So it's definitely something that, like I said, I love to learn more about. So let's talk a little bit more about these 3 different things. And I wanted to give you sort of an analogy, and I can't take credit for this. Somebody actually, one of my friends posted this, and I thought it was such a good analogy. I wanted to, make sure to let you guys know, because it is kind of confusing when you think about these and what's going on in our body. So we have, a day at the playground. And when we're talking about progesterone, xenoestrogens, phytoestrogens, and natural estrogen, they each play a part at the, quote unquote, playground. The natural estrogen in our body is the quiet kid at the playground. So in our body, it's very easily dominated by the xenoestrogens. That's why, the level drops so low, is because it's just suppressed. Our body doesn't think it needs it. So it's actually, not going to just barge back in there and be like, my levels are low, I need more, your body to produce more. It's the quiet kid that's going to be in the corner and be suppressed. The hero on the playground is the phytoestrogens. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into that when we talk about supplements. And then the bully at the playground is the xenoestrogens. And the mama of this whole picture is the progesterone, because it's actually the precursor of all the hormones in your body. And when mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. So that kind of shows you that progesterone is a key player, to kind of get in balance so that everything else kind of falls in place. So we have all these cells floating around in our body with fingers, known as the receptor sites. They're sticking out looking for estrogen. And they don't care really where the estrogen comes from, just so that there is some form of it binding to those receptor sites. So our naturally produced estrogen is the very shy, quiet kid. It's not very strong on the playground. So that would really like to bind to the fingers. Obviously, it wants to bind to its cells to be able to work. But then comes the bully. And so it's just going to shove it out of the way and really push it off the playground fingers and bind to that receptor site and take over for itself. And when these xenoestrogens are metabolized, that's where you have this higher incidence of breast overgrowth, or the C word. So it's actually coming from the xenoestrogen metabolites, and these can give the estrogen dominance test results. So it kind of like if you were to do a test, it would show that you had higher amounts of estrogen than you actually do. And they might not, obviously give you the right thing to balance them. So really what's happening is that on the playground, the shy kid has been kicked out by the bully, and then comes the hero, is the phytoestrogens. And I'm going to save that to talk about, when we talk about the supplements, but it really comes in and kind of pushes the xenoestrogens away, flushes those out of your system, and it helps the natural estrogen get back into balance and helps it, I guess, play on the playground fingers, or whatever you might call it. But it kind of helps it kind of step up to the plate and do its job, while suppressing the bully of the playground. And really what we learned earlier about the receptor sites, this should really make more sense. So when we have an influx of the xenoestrogens from an outside source, whether that be chemicals, processed foods, sugars, they all bind to these receptor sites, and thus blocking the real hormone from binding. And the cell fails to do its job, and all is lost in that instance. So if this keeps happening over and over again, you can see how this has such a huge impact on your health. Okay, so we kind of now know a little bit more about how this whole system works, and how it's very complicated to work in your body. So there's two choices really. So we could go with a Band-Aid, the traditional way, which would probably be birth control or hormone replacement therapy, or whatever that might be. But we're never really looking at the root cause. That if you go to the physician, they're going to give you something such as this, because they most doctors know very little about alternative medicine and diet, and how that can really affect your body. So they're going to give you all that they know how to do, and that's write you a prescription most of the time. And I like this little quote I saw. It says, at some point you just pull off a Band-Aid and it hurts, but then it's over and you're relieved. So this kind of equates to, it's easier to go, maybe to the doctor and get these things, but is it really the best thing to do? Or can we kind of step out of our comfort zone and maybe take a different way and, really listen to our body and take time to do that? Because if there's one thing I've learned, through my own hormonal roller coaster, you might say, to, other people's, hormones are something that take a little bit of time to get in balance. You're not going to use anything and overnight it's going to be different. So you're going to have to give it a month or two at least, and do some of these natural things to really make a huge change in your health. But really, I think that, it's just making that decision. Like I said, it's making that decision that I do want to start thinking a little bit more about what I might, eat, or just, trying to take better care of myself. That really is what it comes down to. Do you want to take care of your body? I think that our bodies are amazingly made and can really handle a lot, but we're going to suffer the consequences. So why not honor our body and really listen to it? And like I said, take a different approach, and it will be so much better in the end. And just, your quality of life will be so much better. And, it really scares me that their statistics are so high for breast overgrowth now. And, it makes me think that 1 in 3, that's a lot of people. And I just think that if we take the time to look at these things and take care of ourselves better, only God knows what's going to happen to us. But I think in the meantime, we can definitely, take care of the body that He's given us and really honor that and listen to it. So getting down to the issue, quick fix versus long-term solution. That's kind of what I was just talking about. So with all this information, where do you start? It is kind of confusing when you think about what a delicate balance it is and how easily it can get off balance. So where do you start? So in my opinion, diet. I would start there for sure. Exercise, and then the supplements that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. Those are the 3 places that I would definitely look at, just trying to make even small shifts every day, just your mindset, trying to, do better in these 3 areas. So let's talk about diet for just a minute. So in my opinion, making a shift to an 80% plant-based diet is the best thing you can do. You're not going to eat perfect all the time, but if you really think about trying to focus on that 80% range, it really gives you some time to maybe have some treats and have different things that you might not want to have. But on a that would be not the norm. The norm is that you eat in this fashion, and then you might have a treat every now and then. But I think for a long time, once I came off, like I said, I came off the birth control, and I was trying to get to conceive. Obviously, it took a while for that to get out of my system. It really does. Once you get off something like that, it takes a while for it to even get out of your system. But I was still so clogged. I didn't have the tools that I needed at the time. I've never been one to eat terrible, but I was still eating processed foods, low-fat foods, or different things like that I thought were healthy, and I just really wanted to stay at a certain weight. But now I know that I need certain fats and I need certain nutrients. So I really try to, look at that versus calories. I don't count calories. I really count nutrients. So I think when you make that shift, it can be a huge help in this kind of, path to balancing your hormones. So in speaking about eating fats, and some of you might think that's, why do I need fats? Well, fats are actually what are the building blocks of hormones. So, that's why you probably heard that people do have a lot harder time trying to conceive if they're, a very skinny person, very low weight body fat. It's because they don't have enough fat to build the hormones, to have their hormones in check, and all of those things. So that can play a huge difference. And when I speak about fats, I'm not talking about just any fat. I'm talking about the natural sources of fat, the good that are high in omegas and things like that. So coconut oil is one of the best things. It helps your thyroid production, that obviously, has a big part in that. And then avocado, nuts, and things like that are very good sources of fats. And, we have to have cholesterol as well, because cholesterol is one of the main building blocks in hormones. And this allows the hormones to be able to communicate. If there's not enough cholesterol, they can't communicate effectively. So that's another thing that kind of we need to look at in the bigger picture. And I did want to mention while I'm here, when you eat a mainly plant-based diet, there are certain things that you see that don't have animal products, but probably aren't the best. So one of them would be soy. And soy is, I know that, and I used to hear like, oh, you don't want to eat too much soy, and, it can do this and that. And I never really understood, I just try to kind of stay away from it, but I didn't really understand what it did. When soy is not fermented, so fermented means like something like temph or miso, it can really mess up your estrogen levels like any other processed foods do. But when it's fermented, it, as I mentioned above, that should not interact with soy that comes from, just the highly processed. It actually breaks it down, and it's easier for your body to digest. And so I did want to mention that, because sometimes that can be really confusing. And when I eat an 80% plant-based diet, I try to stay away from those things. So I'm really going to eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and things with very little gluten in it, because that can, that's probably not the best for us either. I'm not going to say I'm gluten intolerant, but when I eat it, I don't feel the best. So I know that my body is kind of saying, you might want to stay away from that. And that only happens when we kind of get our body cleaned out and can really listen to those subtle shifts that our body is telling us. So I need to, we all need to kind of listen to our body. And that is one of the things that I've noticed at, probably within the last 6 months when I've kind of shifted over to this lifestyle, is that I can tell a lot more what my body is trying to tell me, and really listen to that. And one last thing on here, a cleanse is a really great way to kind of reset your hormones and get them back in balance. Supplements and trying to just eat better in general will help, But I find that a lot of times the cravings are so bad. So I think that really, if you did want to kind of jumpstart this, a cleanse is a great way to do that because it's going to help your cells rebuild. It's going to help the hormones get back into balance. So it's something that everyone should look at doing, once or twice a year. And obviously very little grains and sugar. Sugar is very toxic to your body, and it can play, obviously a role in different, hormonally related things. So other areas of interest, exercise, is one that I don't really advocate for somebody going out and just like killing themselves at the gym, but to move your body every day is something that's very important for, balance within your body, but also balance within your mind. We get really stagnant in our life and don't really see a lot of change that we might want. And this is one place that, I know personally that if I don't make exercise a priority, I just feel off. And so it's something that is a very valid thing to do to kind of help to get that balance back in your body. So they say that low intensity mixed with some high intensity workouts is the best thing to balance your hormones. So if you're thinking about just that, not necessarily any other areas, I kind of like to do that. I like to do some lower intensity and some higher intensity, like yoga and running or something like that. Not the same thing all the time because it wears on your body and it creates almost a stress on your body that you might get the physical results, but the inside is still going to be out of balance. Sleep is another huge factor because when we sleep and when we get that rest, it gives the cells a chance to rebuild and produce those hormones. And also hormones work on a schedule. So, we should try to go to bed and get up at the same time. Now, sometimes that's hard if you have, little kids that might still get up in the night or whatnot. There might be some, things that you can't control right now. But as a whole, we should try to, set our bodies on a schedule because it's going to run better that way. And when our body's out of balance, it's going to try to compensate, with whatever that is. If one, like I said, if one place is out of balance, it's going to try to compensate with the other. So I think we can see that and really, receive great benefit if we get the rest that we need. And cortisol and stress are huge deals when you talk about hormone balance because, cortisol is a hormone. And obviously when we are under stress, our body secretes cortisol. And that can throw off our hormone balance as well. So chronic stress that, I think that it kind of goes back to self-care. Some stress you just can't, you can't do anything about, but, you can't do anything about how other people act, but you can do something about how you react. So really taking the time to, if you're stressed out, just pray about it. Pray, that God will help you kind of get through this and find a better way and find a better way to deal with it. So stress is one of those things that is very tricky. I think it's just kind of a mindset that, I'm going to act the way I act normally, no matter what somebody else does. So I think that's something that can really help in that area. And then the reducing toxic load. And so, from your food to your home, how you take care of your home and how you take care of yourself with self-care products, those things are really make a big difference when we look at hormones. And just some things that kind of increase your toxic load and sources of these xenoestrogens that we spoke about are things like pesticides and herbicides and commercial animal feed that, is in the livestock that you might consume, estrogenic drugs that might be given to the livestock that you eat, plastic food packaging or plastic cooking film. Nearly everything that's plastic has chemicals that will disrupt your hormonal balance. Solvents, adhesives like nail polish, different personal care products and things like that. Obviously processed foods and fluoride can actually suppress the thyroid function, which obviously throws off your hormones as well. So I know that some of you might have heard that fluoride is not that great for you and that it's really not as necessary for your oral health as we might have once thought. So this kind of goes into a little bit more about why it's not that great for you. It can definitely have some effects on your balance of hormones in your body. So supplements, this is kind of taking more action. Obviously diet, exercise I spoke about, but then supplements have a really huge benefit in your overall health. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the phytoestrogen. that when we went back to the playground, this was the good guy. So, there are phytoestrogens in soy that I mentioned, but those are actually softer than natural estrogen, yet more powerful than xenoestrogens. So in short, the phytoestrogens come to the playground with a can of beatdown. So they protect the cells from the xenoestrogens binding to the receptor sites, and obviously protects them from the harmful effects of that. And even though its name is phytoestrogen, it actually balances estrogen and progesterone production. So it's not going to give you more estrogen. And so, we spoke about how progesterone is a precursor to estrogen. So it's going to kind of balance all of that. It's not going to just work on the estrogen. It's going to, look at the progesterone as well and help do that, maybe balance that. And if the cell receptor sites aren't able to receive a hormone, if they're blocked, we talked about how the hypothalamus interprets that. And once, you maybe take the phytoestrogen supplement, it's actually going to help balance that. And so it helps balance the production of that. And you can get phytoestrogen from your diet. Like leafy greens have, natural plant-based, phytoestrogen components. But even though, our diet's not perfect, even though we try to eat so many servings of fruits and vegetables, this is a great supplement to take because it actually just helps balance those two different hormones in your body. And just one other thing about this one, it's really important to take it with, like doTERRA offers the phytoestrogen plus a bone nutrient complex. And when I was trying to conceive, I actually just took the phytoestrogen. I didn't know about the bone. I mean, I knew it was available, but I didn't know you should take it together. I just thought it was for maybe older women that are, I know when you're older, you take calcium because your bones are more brittle, but it actually helps them to work better together. So, if you see that pack, if you're a member already, that's why they're put together, because it actually helps it work better. The next thing is maca powder. And you might have all heard about this. It's a powder that you can, put in some kind of drink or a smoothie, but it's actually part of the tuber family, like a potato almost, and it's very popular in Peru. It's known as like a beauty food. Women who use this can see improvements, in obviously hormonal balance, but reduction in PMS and better skin and nails and fertility. And it's a good source of minerals and essential fatty acids that are needed, obviously are the building blocks of hormones. So that's a good way, kind of an inexpensive way too that everybody has access to. You can get it online or at stores, and just try to, use it every day or every other day in, like I said, like a smoothie or something like that. It doesn't have much of a taste, so you can kind of add it to things. The Lifelong Vitality Pack that doTERRA offers is, I talk about this in every webinar that I do because it is so fantastic. It's a bioavailable multivitamin and supplement pack that, your body knows how to use those ingredients because they're powdered in a certain way and put together in a certain way. But, what that system does is it helps your body to gain a sense of balance. And that's only going to help, obviously, your hormones be in balance. So it's just something that supports overall health, but also can play a part in hormonal balance as well. And then Natural Calm is a powdered, it's a powder that you can put in water and drink, or I like to make a tea at night, just a warm tea to put, some of that in. And it you can get different flavors, so it tastes good. And it's actually a powdered magnesium supplement, because you see magnesium tablets and you see powders, but the reason it's powdered is it's much more readily absorbed that way versus in a tablet form. So, this can help. Most of us are deficient in magnesium, so this can help, balance a lot of things in our body, but hormones is one. And I love to use it every night. It helps with sleep as well. So that's kind of another thing to help us calm down at night, get a really restful night's sleep, and aid in those building blocks of the hormones. So let's talk a little bit about some essential oils that you could use, aid your body in kind of coming to a hormonal balance. Clary Calm is at the top of the list, and I actually made a separate slide for that one because I wanted to kind of go in detail about that one. It's a blend. But the other ones on the list, Ylang Ylang, it's really interesting. When I was going through all that with my daughter, I didn't have essential oils. And so when I was trying to get pregnant with my son, I did have them. And so I knew I'd had problems. I've always had sort of a longer cycle and never really knew if I ovulated or not. So I wanted to really try and get my hormones in balance. And, I must say that it worked extremely well. I conceived within 2 months versus 2 years last time. And then there was more that was different in my life at that point, 2 years later, I guess. But I know that these essential oils helped balance it in some way. So I looked up, different oils that would affect different hormones, because it's amazing when you start looking at these things that each one can affect different hormones in your body at different times in your cycle. And it's amazing. So just to give you a little bit about each one of these, ylang ylang is a reproductive organ energizer, and it's also an aphrodisiac. I know most of your husbands will probably be like, can you get a bottle of that? So anyway, just side note on that. So I definitely use that one. I used all of these when I was trying to conceive. So fennel, it's oestrogenic. And what that means is you have oestrogen, which helps your body to ovulate when you are trying, just on a monthly basis. Some people ovulate, obviously, some people don't, but this kind of encourages that. And it helps support ovulation. And it's the most phytoestrogenic oil as well. Some of these can actually help, just like the supplement does. So this is one of the highest oils with the most phytoestrogenic compounds in it. Clary sage, it helps stimulate the pituitary gland to help produce more estrogen. So that one is very beneficial. Geranium, balance is next. It helps support your nervous system and function, which can help support, obviously, your stress level and different things like that, that then in turn can help, your body kind of get into a state of balance, like the name says. So that is a one, and it really helps, because it does all those things. It helps your body to use the other essential oils better, because it kind of gets it almost primed, if that makes sense. It kind of wakes up your cells and gives them more oxygen, and it helps, if you use, other oils after that, it helps them to go to work better. And then geranium, it's a great feminine oil all the way around, but in specific, it helps overall support of hormonal balance. So it's a great one to use if maybe you don't know your cycle as well. Like I really try to look at different things. Like I have a long cycle and I didn't know if I ovulated, different things like that, and try to use these certain oils to help promote things that I needed. But geranium is a great one to use just for overall hormonal health. So Clary Calm in specific, when I was doing a lot of research, Vitex and carrot seed came up a lot, and they are actually in the Clary Calm blend. You can't purchase those singly, but they're actually, that's why I always recommend Clary Calm to anybody, any woman that, really any woman could benefit, but somebody that specifically asked me about hormonal balance. So Vitex helps support the body in symptoms of, that didn't say PMS, but that's what I meant to say, symptoms of PMS. The carrot seed helps to regulate the menstrual cycle and thyroid health. So you can actually, if your thyroid's out of balance, a lot in your body is out of balance. So it can help regulate that. And then lavender can help irregular or scanty cycles. So it kind of helps all of these, I put what the blend contains. There's several different oils, but they all work in a way to help bring your body back to balance. And that's what's so great about, using a blend like this. And different blends, I always love blends because you get different oils to do different things and don't have to apply all those oils, obviously. So this is one that I use every single day. You can use it morning or night. I like to put it on my wrist or my feet. So anyway, yeah, I love this blend, and I use it and recommend it all the time. So that kind of concludes our topic for tonight. I did want to mention that there are some other resources that I've done in the past. Some of you may be well-versed in essential oils, some may be new. So I wanted to give you the different sources that, I've done a 101 webinar that goes over the basics of essential oils. I've done a 201 webinar, which goes more in detail of the other different products that doTERRA offers. That's kind of in more how you can live a natural lifestyle and how you can incorporate them in your life, on a daily basis. So that I just wanted to share that for anybody, and I can post these links, if anybody needs them in the the Facebook group or message you. And so I really want to thank you for taking time out. You know, we're all busy. We all have other things we could be doing. But just the time that you've taken out to really learn more about this subject, I know that it's going to, you know, whether it be a big change or a small change, it's going to, you know, it's going to spark some thought for sure. And I hope that maybe you learned a little bit more about how the body works and how it is such a beautiful creation, and that, you know, if we really listen to it, we can gain a lot of insight. And there's one last quote I wanted to leave you with. The empowered woman is powerful beyond measure and beautiful beyond description. And, you know, I think a lot of times we take for granted the power that we have when we really take our own life into our hands and not really just follow what everybody else is doing or do whatever is the most comfortable or the most, you know, just the most generic, you know, or, you know, for lack of a better word. So that just goes back to the fact that if we take healthcare in our own hands, we can see a lot of change in our life. And I've put up my contact information. I did want to mention that if anybody invited you to this webinar, if you have questions, concerns, want to know how to get some products that I've mentioned, you should go to them and ask them to kind of help you with that. But if anybody, you know, I've invited anybody, you're welcome to contact me over the phone or email. And so I'll leave that up for just another minute, but okay, let me unshare my screen here.